My volume went off. My volume went off. I don't have no volume.
Hit pause a second.
So this whole thing that exists right now has no constitutional basis whatsoever. So the lawyers out there will say, but the Supreme Court ruled. I don't care what the Supreme Court ruled. I'm not talking about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court in many ways has to make things work. I'm talking about what does your Constitution provide? Your Constitution, not some Supreme Court in the 1940s and so forth. Your Constitution. It provides none of this. Now the power of the purse, they gave it to Congress, not unelected judges, and not the executive. The legislature makes spending determinations, but does it? What's an omnibus bill? It's a massive spending bill, the particulars of which nobody knows. And then it goes to the bureaucracy, again, which has no place in our constitutional construct. So you have people who are mid-level bureaucrats, lower-level bureaucrats, maybe manager bureaucrats, making decisions about hundreds of billions of dollars and where that money's supposed to go. Is that what the framers had in mind? Of course it's not what they had in mind. That's not anything close to any kind of a constitutional construct that they or anybody else was contemplating. Okay. Next question. Does Congress have the power to bankrupt the country under the spending clause? What, Mark? I'm very serious about this. Congress is in charge of the spending bills, borrowing, taxing. Does Congress have the power to bankrupt our country? What do you think the framers would say? Of course not. We set up a limited government with checks and balances. Limited. Article 1 gives Congress what powers it actually has. All this spending that President Trump, Elon Musk, and the team is finding, the framers would be shaking their head. What the hell does this have to do with the federal government? What the hell does this have to do with the American people? What the hell does this have to do with the constitutional system? Nothing. Zero. None of this is contemplated. Not because those are the old days and these are the modern days. No. In fact, what's happening in our government is pretty primitive. Nobody really knows what the hell's going on. And so you have Trump comes in and he says, well, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on in the executive branch. Whether they put the bureaucracy here, I've got to take a look at it. They're spending money left and right. I've got to take a look at it. And if I don't look at it, nobody else is, including our vaulted Congress that has the power of the purse. $500 billion a year, up to $500 billion a year, says the GAO, is wasted. Waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm the president. I'm in charge of making sure the money is spent wisely. No? Well, the answer is yes. Does Congress have the right to fund fraud? Under the power of the purse. Fraud, Mark? Of course not. Okay. So the executive has the power to find out if there's fraud then, right? Right. Then what are these federal judges doing trying to stop him? What about waste, fraud, and abuse? Does Congress have the power under the power of the purse to spend money in ways that are incredibly wasteful and abusive? Where friends of the Democrat Party are being larded up with billions of dollars with their so-called nonprofit organizations, non-governmental organizations, some kind of an ideological objective or whatever. Does Congress have that power? Should it? Should it? We never ask about the power of Congress. Look at Congress over the last decades. Congress can't get a budget done in time. Ever. Congress can't ever balance the budget. Ever. Congress can't get the debt under control. Ever. We're not paying $1 trillion, soon to be $1.2 trillion, to finance the debt. Now again, the framers of the Constitution would never have imagined such irresponsibility. But do you think the framers of your Constitution would say it's the job of the president just to ignore it all, just keep rubber stamping it? So why do the Democrats, the left, their media and academia, why do these phony constitutional law professor saying that basically Donald Trump, the executive, has no role, despite the fact it's all in the executive branch. Because they're Marxist/socialists. They're cultural Marxists, economic socialists. This is what they want. This is what they've created. Do you see, America, if you begin going down and through the process of actually looking at what's taking place, you're destroying the whole idea of omnibus spending bill. Where we, the people, have no idea what the money's spending on. So on the spending end, you know, Congress on the front end, the omnibus bill on the spending end, Donald Trump is saying, well, I want to take a look. And so they're fighting him. They're fighting them with their judges. They're fighting them in the media. They're fighting them in Congress. And then they tell you we have a constitutional crisis. What Congress is doing is aconstitutional. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives them the power to bankrupt the country. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives them this ubiquitous spending, borrowing, and taxing power to spend, borrow whatever they want on whatever they want and tax any way they want. Now, you can't write in a governing document all the little details and specifics. It's not a mortgage. It's not a contract to purchase a car or something like that. This is a governing document. And they said early on, if the people aren't virtuous or the representatives aren't virtuous, this won't last. But no constitutional republic, especially ours, is required to go along with this. In other words, you've got this massive bureaucracy, this fourth branch of government that has no constitutional basis whatsoever. Again, regardless of what the Supreme Court says, it has none. What's the Supreme Court? 9 really smart lawyers in black robes. Okay. Some of us don't have black robes, but we know what we're talking about. Then these omnibus spending bills, just trillions of dollars out the door, $7 trillion, or we have the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation, everything to do with climate change. They didn't even spend all the money. They're pushing it out the door near the end. Tens of billions of dollars at a time. $500 billion waste, fraud, and abuse, the abuse, the GAO says. And Trump's just supposed to, don't look, rubber stamp it. No, Congress does not have the power to bankrupt America. Congress does not have the power to fund fraud. And if in these massive omnibus bills, they're funding massive amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse, up to $500 billion a year, I doubt that's a legitimate constitutional power Congress has as well. And so Congress's responsibilities need to be exposed, and what Congress does needs to be exposed as well. Now, these judges, very, very interesting, who are trying to prevent Donald Trump from preventing waste, fraud, and abuse. I just went back and I counted before the program how many of these cases have been brought. 94. 94 cases. And I just took a random look. They're not all Democrat judges, but the vast majority are. The vast majority are. Some of them are Republican-appointed judges, with a caveat. Some of them were appointed by Republicans, like in the case of Seattle by Reagan, as part of a deal where he picked a liberal Democrat judge in order to get 2 more conservative judges through. And those deals at the federal district court level have been made for more than 100 years, probably. So when they say it's a Reagan judge and so forth, you got to take a look. But I took a look at some of these judges who are right in the middle of this. And it's no accident that the petitioners who are bringing these cases are bringing them mostly in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, New York, Manhattan, places heavy concentration of Democrats, and where you're most likely to get a judge who's been appointed by Clinton, Obama, or Biden. And some of these judges, the key judges right now, were appointed by Biden and Obama. We have Judge Abelson. Now, he's blocking the anti-DEI efforts of the administration. He was just appointed by Biden in the last 2 years or so. We have Judge Alican, appointed by Biden. Judge Alican is blocking the freezing of federal funding, where Trump said, you know, I want to take a look at this. He said, no, you can't. We have Judge Ali, perhaps the most radical of the bunch. He has ordered Trump to actually spend money on foreign aid. When Trump says, no, I don't want to spend that money, I want to look at it. John Roberts in the court stepped in and said, not so fast, Judge Ali. We're going to take a look at this. He was appointed by Biden. We have Judge Vargas, appointed by Biden, blocks access to Treasury Department payment systems. We have Judge Boardman, appointed by Biden, blocked access to personnel records. Doesn't the president have a right to know who's working for his government, and if they're actually working for his government? We have Judge Amy Berman Jackson. She is a huge radical in Washington, appointed by Obama. She's forced the reinstatement of a so-called watchdog fired by Trump. You see how they're micromanaging? The executive branch, which is trying to manage this massive bureaucracy that's not even in the Constitution. Oh, by the way, none of these judges are either. They're created by a Judiciary Act. They're created by Congress. So the one person who is created by the Constitution, Donald Trump, the presidency, we're told, has no say, has no power. Nations go bankrupt, the debt's go through the ceiling, the value of the currency's going down. He just needs to watch. Leave it to the unelected judges, leave it to the unelected bureaucrats. So leave it to Congress that's using the power of the purse to destroy the country. We have Judge John McConnell, I believe out of Boston, appointed by Obama. He blocked the president's freeze on grants and loans. We have a Judge Kacharis, appointed by Obama, blocked the freeze of the government trumps of grant and loans. We have Judge Herson, appointed by Biden. He's blocked the transgender order from the administration. We have Judge Engelmayer, appointed by Obama, blocked access to payroll systems, to payment systems, so they can figure out if there's fraud going on. We have Judge Kelly, appointed by Biden. She blocked cuts to personnel grants. They're running the executive branch. These judges are micromanaging the executive branch. Now, where do they get that power? They have no such power, none whatsoever. Zero. They don't have the power to trump the legitimate actions of a president of the United States. They don't have the power to run the human resources departments in the federal government, to decide what's on their websites, to decide whether the president can fire or offer people early retirement. They don't have the power to do any of these things. And yet they're doing them. So first, we establish Congress does not have the power to bankrupt America. It does not have the power to fund fraudulent activities. In addition to the fact they don't know what the hell they're funding under these omnibus bills. The president does have the power to see what's being spent. He does have the power to determine whether fraud's taking place and waste and abuse. And he's not required to rubber stamp it.
How's it call?
And now we've established these judges do not have the power to micromanage the executive branch, the bureaucracy, all the decisions that an elected president, elected in the entirety of the United States, gets to make. Because the bureaucracy is not in the Constitution. The bureaucrats aren't elected. These judges aren't in the Constitution. They're created by Congress. And they don't have the power to micromanage the executive branch either. So what do we have here? You ready for this? I'm sorry to upset you. We live in post-constitutional America. What's being done now is an effort to wrap the Constitution around activities, institutions that are taking place that are not in the Constitution. The Constitution was never amended to do any of these things. So we're taking the Constitution, the Supreme Court will, no doubt, and try and figure out how to wrap it around all these things that are taking place, and then try to assort and assign who has what authority and who does not. That's what's taking place. And this has been going on since the early American Marxists, aka progressives, the late 1800s. Woodrow Wilson to Franklin Roosevelt to Lyndon Johnson, and on and on and on. And the reason they're so furious on the left and the Democrat Party and the media about efforts to look at what's taking place and stop what's taking place and on and on and on. The reason why they're attacking Donald Trump and calling him unconstitutional, which is really quite ironic, preposterous, is because this scam has been going on for a long time. You're paying for it. Your children and grandchildren and generations yet born, they're going to pay for it in a humongous way because they're not going to be able to dig out. So why is this being done? Anybody know? Why are the Democrats doing this? Why is the ruling class in Washington doing this with several Republicans? Why do the media support this? Why? Power. Power. And power. They want the power in Washington. They want what the power in the ruling class, the Democrat Party, what's the power in the party? The party is more important than the country. It's about power.
Absolutely.
The Constitution
Totally
is
true.
to prevent. We'll be right back.
Fantastic address.
We're here with, and I'm very excited about this, Attorney General Pam Bondi, a good friend, especially a good friend of my wife, and a wonderful lady, a great lawyer. Welcome to the program, Madam Attorney General. I want to get into this Epstein thing a little bit. I think the American people are very curious about who's on this list, or these lists. You have been doggedly trying to get all the information, and now we learn, thanks to you, that you've been stonewalled by people in New York. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, Mark. So, as you know, we released about 120 pages of documents, and I started asking for these documents right when I came into office, and before Kash Patel was in there. So I ended up getting about 120 pages. We carefully redacted them, of course, to be sure the 254 young girls, women who are victims of sex crimes and sex trafficking, their personal information was redacted and out of there to protect them. So I'm going through it, and I kept saying, there has to be more, there has to be more. I'm assured that's it. Kash asked the same questions. Assured there's no more. I found out, this week that a source told me New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands. And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information and confidential witnesses, but the American people have a right to know. And Donald Trump is the most transparent president in our nation's history. So not only will America get the full Epstein files, they will get JFK, they will get Martin Luther King.
Well, that's fantastic, but I assume the Southern District of New York is, or has been, holding on to this information for a reason. That is, they don't like the names on the list. And of course, we know New York is a hotbed of the Democrat Party, and that includes in legal circles. Do you think that's part of the issue here, that they're trying to protect a lot of names and individuals?
Mark, I have not reviewed the information yet. And as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, I want to review everything before I make a firm conclusion. But I think it's very interesting that they withheld that from us. And I will find out who withheld it, and they will not be working for us anymore.
So once all that's gathered, you're just going to put it out in the public with the obvious necessary redactions, including the people who were the victims and the phone numbers and so forth. But for the perpetrators, I assume that we'll see those names, yes?
Well, certainly. There's nothing can be withheld on that. Of course, as you know, grand jury information, anything confidential, will be withheld under the law. And we're going to do everything in our power to protect the victims so they're not further victimized also.
Let me ask you a question, kind of in this vein. And it may be too early to know because you just got to the Department of Justice. This guy, Jack Smith, his team of lawyers and so forth and so on, do we know yet, and I happen to know that is a big damn department with a lot of people, and so it just takes time to figure things out, but do we happen to know yet whether they complied with all the requirements of the Presidential Records Act and the Espionage Act? That is, did they store all their materials for you folks to look at when you choose to look at it? Do we know that, or did they remove or destroy any of it?
Mark, that's what we're looking at now. We're going through all of that. And now that I just got Kash Patel in as FBI director, he's of course a tremendous help. I've been in office, barely 2 weeks, and it feels like 2 years. We are going nonstop. We will get to the bottom of that. And as you know, the first thing I did was fire the Jack Smith team. That was the ultimate weaponization of our country and our government.
Don't you get a little frustrated, or worse, I would, reading these stories about how you have weaponized the Department of Justice by, pulling back on this case against Adams, which you have every right to do. And you look at the case and you say, well, this is Mickey Mouse. I read it. It was Mickey Mouse. And then here, what you're talking about as well, and it's all of a sudden, well, you're weaponizing the Department of Justice as if you, the new Attorney General, has to tolerate and accept everything that's gone before.
You know what we're trying to do is, end weaponization. We are ending it. And we ended it with the Jack Smith investigation. No one's going to be targeted because of their political views or because they are a political opponent. Ended, and the noise, the chatter, I don't listen to it. I'm here to fight for Donald Trump's agenda. I'm fighting for America. That's what we're all doing as a team. We're going to keep going forward, and I can't care. I don't care. I'm not going to worry about what these people say or do. I know I'm doing the right thing to end weaponization for our country, and that's what I'm going to continue to do every single day, Mark.
We'll be right back.
Pope Francis is said to be stable as he continues to battle double pneumonia. The 88-year-old spent long portions of today off non-invasive ventilation he initially needed, a sign his lung health is improving. Francis suffered bronchial spasms yesterday after inhaling vomit during a coughing fit. Doctors are monitoring his condition closely. And the skies over President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort are calm once again after multiple planes reportedly violated its airspace earlier today. NORAD says in total 3 civilian aircraft were safely escorted out of the area by F-16 fighter jets. Flares were used during the 2 intercepts. The planes were said to be circling the property at different times between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. President Trump, of course, is staying there this weekend. I'm Kelly Painter, now back to Life, Liberty, and Levin.
Welcome back, America. We're here with Attorney General Pam Bondi. Attorney General Bondi, so are you getting many referrals, whether it is Tom Homan on immigration or it's the EPA, Zeldin about that unbelievable grant, events like that from Doge and Musk and these other departments, are they starting to pour in somewhat?
Pour in is an understatement, Mark. Yes, we're going nonstop. First with Tom Homan and Kristi Noem. We're all working hand in hand. I was with both of them all week. You're going to see a lot of really great things coming out. We all work as a team. We work so well together. I always tell the president this, I said, we were friends, so many of us, before we came in to work for the president, and it just makes our jobs so much easier because at a principal level, we're all talking to each other constantly. And I talk to Elon constantly because Elon needs us with everything he's doing. He needed us a couple weeks ago when his federal government employees, half of them got locked in USAID, half of them got locked out of USAID when the career deep state turned off their access cards. So that's one of the, I know you can't make this up, that's one of the many things we're doing with Doge. Last weekend, Secretary Zeldin and Secretary Basant of Treasury, the 3 of us, we were FaceTiming pretty much all weekend about all the problems, the $20 billion, as you know, about at EPA. We've been talking nonstop about that. We're going after that. That's a team of lawyers on that. We're all working hand in hand. Secretary Rubio, as you know, this past week we had a great ruling for him. From Justice Roberts, they stayed the case that Marco had to disperse hundreds of millions of dollars of USAID funds. And we've had some other fun rulings for Doge, in one involving Secretary Besson. You'll love this one if you haven't read about this one yet. They tried to tell the Secretary of Treasury that he had no power over how funds are dispersed from the Treasury Department. Only career employees could do that, not the Secretary of Treasury, because they called him a quote political. So that's what we're dealing with every day.
You got a lot of these judges. I've seen the districts they're in. Most of them are in these dark blue cities: Boston, Washington, New York, Seattle, Washington. I counted, and I could be wrong, but I counted on the public record 94 of these lawsuits trying to cripple Doge and the president and the activities that are taking place. I guess these are taking up a lot of time, no?
They are, but there are great lawyers that we have brought in who are amazing. They're on it. We're bringing in more lawyers. Next week, you're going to see a whole stream of new lawyers coming in to help them, but we're on it, and we're in the right. And ultimately, these cases are going to get to the Supreme Court, and we will prevail. It's not even a close call on this. Trillions of dollars of Your tax dollars, our tax dollars are attempting to be distributed by the deep state, and it's going to stop. It's stopped right now. We're not going to let it happen.
You know, Attorney General Bonnie, I'm getting the sense, listening to you and some of the other top officials in the Trump administration, you folks really get along, you really like each other, you like the mandate that the president's given you, that the president's giving you a lot of room to operate and so forth and so on. I just get the sense that this administration early on is functioning much better and coordinating much better than your typical administration. Now, you worked in administrations before, not obviously for a president. Is that your sense of this?
Absolutely, and the president and I talk about this a lot. The president talks about this publicly, even from his first administration. You know, I think you're wiser. I was in his last administration for a short time when they tried to impeach him the first time. So I got to see how great it worked then, but now it works even better. I think you're just wiser. You know what's happening. We all work so well together. He has assembled a team of people who are second to none. And our vice president is just off the charts. He is truly remarkable. He was someone who I didn't know before this, and I just really, I think the world of him and the entire cabinet. And then, Mark, if you take it to a national security level, I always say it's the things that keep all of us up at night that you'll never know about. Hopefully, you'll never know about them, and that's why America's safe. You know, you hear the very public things, the things on the news, but getting to watch firsthand these truly professionals led by Mike Waltz, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Scott Bassett, all of these people together. Steve Witkoff is amazing. The things that are being done for world peace at the direction of Donald Trump, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. I'm so blessed to be a part of it, a teeny tiny part of it, what they're doing.
Well, knowing you and knowing how committed you are and your integrity, I can tell as a former chief of staff to a great attorney general, Ed Meese, that I am thrilled that you're there and you're going to do a fantastic job. So God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend, and God bless you and your amazing wife.
Thank you. I'm with you on that. We'll be right back. Back America, we're here with the new ambassador to the United States from Israel, who I've become quite friendly with. My family has too. He's a very good man. Yechiel Leiter. Yechiel Leiter, let me start off with the 800-pound terrorist. That would be Iran. And I keep reading stories that they have enough now material for 6 nuclear weapons, that the time to talk is very, very limited. And this is coming from the UN of all places, the IAEA. What is your thinking about this? Let me just ask you that broad question. What is your thinking about it? The Prime Minister is thinking about it. I mean, our President has said no nukes. Now, no nukes means no nukes. And I know that's the Prime Minister's position. Are both countries kind of coordinating and talking about this?
We are, Mark. As always, it's good to be with you. Yes, the Prime Minister of Israel has been talking about Iran and encouraging the West to take heed that Iran cannot achieve nuclear capability for a long time. You'll remember his appearance in Congress way back when Barack Obama was still president, and President Trump then followed, and he rescinded an agreement which would have seen Iran achieve nuclear weapons down the line. Right now we're at a pivotal moment because Iran is racing forward in the nuclear program. Next week actually, on the 3rd of March, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is meeting. They're supposed to produce a report on Iranian progress, but they won't be able to because Iran doesn't really cooperate with the IAEA. And that shouldn't surprise us. These people are liars. They're charming liars, but they lie. And we cannot allow ourselves to be charmed by their attempt to hoodwink Western civilization into allowing them to achieve nuclear power. They mean what they say. There's one thing they tell the truth about, actually, and that's their intention to destroy Israel. How do we know they tell the truth? Because they've already fired hundreds of ballistic missiles with the intention to murder our our innocents, to attack our cities, and they say that we're only the beginning. They call us the little Satan. The United States is the big Satan, and they're coming for Western civilization as a whole.
Yeah, and you know what? Let me make my own prediction. You can't talk your way out of this with the Iranian regime. This is going to be a matter of diplomacy. It's going to be a matter of military action. That's what it's going to take, because they're just playing rope-a-dope. They're dragging on anybody who wants to talk to them, whether it's the UN, whether it's been the United States, whether it's anybody else. And they need this regime to hold on to any kind of power, because you've so weakened them. You've so weakened their economy. You've so weakened their military. And I'm afraid push is going to come to shove, and it's going to come fairly quickly.
You're absolutely right that you can't talk Iran out of this, but I think we should add that they're not going to be able to talk the Trump administration out of it. I think there's real clarity on the Iranian situation within the Trump administration. There were wonderful talks between the Prime Minister Netanyahu, and President Trump and his team, the Vice President, Secretary of Defense, and State. We're on the same page on this, and we're going to work together to ensure that Western civilization remains safe.
Israel's getting maximum support from the United States, isn't it? And that's a huge difference from the prior administration, it seems to me, no?
It's just a pleasure to work with the administration on every front, on every issue. They understand our predicament. This administration understands that there's no better ally of the United States than Israel. The amount of intelligence data that we share with the United States, the experience that we have in technology, our advancements in technology are all shared with the United States. And the relationship is one of brothers, really, older brother and the younger brother. And it's a marvelous relationship. Even if you began to ask me a question on the hostages and, the diplomacy that Steve Witkoff is implementing is really a marvelous state-of-the-art diplomacy, someone who comes with both common sense, experience, and a big heart. And those are rare qualities in a diplomat, and he brings them to the table, has achieved great things. We're going to achieve more with him, although it's a very, very difficult situation that he, together with Prime Minister Netanyahu, are managing now. We want to get as many hostages out alive as we possibly can, but we're committed, very committed, because our public is very committed, that Hamas will not be allowed to stand in Gaza.
Yeah, well, it's tough when you're dealing with bloodthirsty troglodytes, and that's what you're dealing with. We'll be right back. Welcome back to America. We're here with the ambassador from Israel to the United States, Yael Leiter. The situation at Hamas, this is the hardest part of this negotiation, I suppose, getting the final people out of there. I know that is a priority of your government, and it always has been with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Unfortunately, most of them are not alive. We want to do everything we can to get those alive out. We're working on that. And that brings me to a short story that I only learned recently from my son David, who was a soldier of my oldest son, Moshe, who was the commander of forces that entered Gaza to liberate the hostages. And he told me that on the night they entered Gaza, he went up to his older brother, the commander, and he said, I'm afraid, because we were firing our artillery to prepare the ground incursion. And my oldest son put his hand on David's shoulder, his younger brother, and said, well, I'm afraid too, but let's get in there and get those hostages back. So we have over 400 soldiers that have given their lives to get our hostages out, to defeat Hamas. Tremendous courage. We have an army that's just incredible. People that came back from all over the world to volunteer. They weren't even called up to participate in Israel's defense of its existence, defense of its people after the horrific attack on October 7th, and the continued insistence on the part of Hamas that it was only a beginning and that they plan to repeat it. I can't help but point out that we have almost a resurrection on many college campuses of the insanity that went on here in the United States while the day after Hamas implemented their massacre, the slaughter of 1,200 innocents. We had college students out there celebrating this massacre, supporting Hamas, and now we see a recurrence of this. As we talk right now, there's a demonstration in Barnard College in support of Palestinian terrorism. We had 3 incidences of the past week where universities here in Washington, thankfully, canceled the appearance of Hamas supporters speaking on campus. These are steps that the president has taken. It's come straight out of the White House. His envoy against anti-Semitism, Leo Terrell, has made it very clear that supporters of terrorism will go to jail. Well, we're here to say, those of us here in the embassy representing Israel, that this is a tremendous achievement on the part of the administration. We have to see to it that people supporting of terror are prosecuted and sent to jail. We can't have this on our college campuses.
No, the funding sources need to be cut off. We know who they are. I'll say who they are. Not only Hamas, they're Qatar, they're Iran, pouring enormous sums of money into our colleges and universities and spreading this, and now pouring it into teaching seminars and so forth in our K through 12 schools. So this has to be stopped, and I think President Trump is focused on this, as well as student visas, people who are in this country who hate our country, who are obviously just Jew haters and American haters. They need to go. All these things are in the process of being done. I just want to say this, Mr. Ambassador. I want the American people to know you lost your eldest son. He was the father of 6 children. He was a great hero. He was a commander. And so you have felt this war very personally and directly, as so many people in Israel have. It's a tiny country with a minimal number of people, quite frankly. Everybody knows somebody who's lost somebody. And I just want to thank you for what you're doing for Israel, for the United States. And God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark. It's always good to be with you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back, America. First, a little bit of business. I'd like to encourage you to set your DVR to this program on Saturdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern, obviously, just in case you're stepping out or something like that. After all, this is the weekend. So we would appreciate that, because that way you'll at least get to see the content of the program when you choose to see it, if you can't watch us live. I just want to add some perspective to all the noise and static that's going on out there. Washington is upset with what's happening to Washington. The ruling class is upset with what's happening to the ruling class. The bureaucrats, their unions, the Democrats, their lawyers, they don't represent America. There's tens of millions of us who are thrilled every day with what Trump is doing in his administration, what Elon Musk and his team are doing. And so I would say to them, keep it up. Keep the foot on the gas.
Keep it up, and I would say the same thing.
Support this.
Travels with John Stephenson.
Eastern time, right here on Life, Liberty, and Liberty.
The momentum going tonight. In the quest to make America great again, a broad coalition of voices is coming together in a way we've never seen before. And what's the goal? It's simple. President Trump wants to restore confidence in our institutions and our leaders. He wants to restore our borders and the rule of law. He wants to make America the safest, strongest country we've ever been. Part of that strength will come with making America healthy again. The MAHA movement, spearheaded by his HHS Secretary, RFK Jr., has grown into a passionate group of health leaders, elite athletes, and eager parents, all motivated to save America from daunting statistics.
Today, Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. The United States has worse health than any other developed nation. We can't be a strong nation unless we're first to healthy people.
I think there needs to be a focus on all of the proper basics that are needed to improve the overall health and well-being of Americans. I've seen firsthand that the medical community is overwhelmed with some of these preventable ailments.
We've had enough. We want truth. We want transparency. And we want to be able to educate people in a way that isn't being funded by big industry.
America's average life expectancy is currently 78.4 years old. That's years behind the UK and other nations, and still well behind our own pre-pandemic levels. We spend more money on healthcare than any other country, and yet our citizens have never been sicker. The CDC says 2 in 5 U.S. adults are obese, and an estimated 129 million people in our country have at least one major chronic disease, things like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and hypertension. Clearly, we have serious ground to make up, and yet those on the left are more focused on fear-mongering and attacking RFK rather than working together.
You said yesterday that people could be killed as a result of this, of RFK Jr. being in this role.
Senator, you said, quote, millions will die, unquote, if RFK Jr. is confirmed.
By now, it's beyond clear that Mr. Kennedy is not remotely qualified to become the next Secretary of HHS. To confirm Mr. Kennedy is a vote to make America sicker.
RFK guarantees that all of our kids will go to school with kids that get very sick. Women will die because doctors will be confused about what their rights are.
When it comes to health, and more importantly, our children's health at that, shouldn't we all be on the same team, fighting for the same cause? Tonight, on My View, we'll talk to those voices who are committed to the MAHA mission, from what we eat to how we move and even how we think. It's time to take a step back and reevaluate. With new health leaders taking the reins, we have the freedom to really examine what we've been told. And if it means feeling better, living longer, and getting more years with our loved ones, in my view, I think it's worth it.
David.
Let's start tonight with biohacking. Sounds a little bit sci-fi, but there are some very real advancements being made by those willing to push the envelope in tech, biology, and beyond. And one of the biggest names in the field is Gary Brecka.
We're a lot more sick and diseased and pathological than we really deserve to be.
This guy will change your life. Some of your favorite actors, some of the most powerful, richest people in the world are all now doing this with Gary for one reason and one reason only. Because it works.
Can a person really live comfortably to like 110, 115?
120 to 140, no question. Yes, 80 is about to be the new 40.
Gary is leading wellness experts, celebrities, and some of your favorite athletes on a new kind of health journey. And luckily, he's still had some time to give us some advice. Watch. Okay, so Gary Brecka, we're so excited to sit down with you today. I don't even know how to address you. A health guru, a biohacker. Tell me what it is you do and how you ended up doing all of this, because so many people turn to you to learn how to improve their health.
Yeah, well, by schooling, I'm a human biologist. My undergraduate degrees were in biology. My postgraduate degrees are in human biology. But for years, I worked in a niche market of life insurance, trying to predict mortality to the month. So we used big data to try to decide how many more months people had left on Earth. And what emerged from this data was that the reason why people are not living healthier, happier, longer, more fulfilling lives were for what we called modifiable risk factors, meaning things that they could change in their lifestyle that would permanently change the trajectory of their life.
Why do you feel like now people are finally starting to say, you know what, maybe things haven't been working the right way. Maybe there are some major changes our country can make. And what is it you would like to see happen over the next 4 years with President Trump, with RFK Jr. in these leadership roles to change America and make us healthy again?
Well, I think you had a couple of things come together like a perfect storm, right? We emerged from the pandemic, and no matter what side of the pandemic you were on, pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine, your life was touched by the pandemic. And I think it woke people up and they said, you know what, I need to take my healthcare choices into my own hands. We're at a crisis point in America. 77% of our military-aged men and women don't qualify for military service due to poor health. You've got 13% of our teens have fatty liver disease. We have the highest rates of childhood cancer in recorded history. We just have to get back to what God gave us, not what man makes us. Getting the poisons out of our food supply. I'm super excited about Bobby Kennedy and your father-in-law's union. I mean, people from polar opposite ends of the spectrum unifying over children and health and healing. And I just find it odd that anybody can be on the opposite side of that coin.
I think a lot of people have been under the impression that the way you cure a disease is to take a drug. But I think we're coming upon a time in our society
where maybe we're going to hopefully phase a lot of that out. Do you feel like that is also part of the MAHA movement?
I think that's a huge part of the MAHA movement. You know, when I interviewed Callie Means, one of the things that he said that always just sat with me was, there's nothing more profitable than a sick child. And as sad as that statistic is, it's a statement of fact, right? We're starting children earlier and earlier and earlier on the hamster wheel. So I think this whole MAHA movement is about getting to the root cause, getting physical education back in the public school system, getting the processed foods out of our children's diets, you know, getting the highly inflammatory foods out of our children's diets. I mean, they deserve to thrive. And that's what I think really laid the perfect foundation for Bobby Kennedy to come in and really take control of a narrative that people are willing to hear.
President Trump has promised to restore the American dream in this country. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person only has one. 60% of our population has only one dream. Have they get better?
If you look at what he's really talking about and describe the MAHA movement, we're talking about getting poisons, herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, preservatives, things that our body doesn't recognize, that cause chemical reactions on our body that make us sicker. And so who's against getting those things out of the food supply? This is how you get a food pyramid that says that Lucky Charms is more nutritious than grass-fed steak.
It's crazy.
Right?
I think something else that people have heard about, they've heard it a lot through Bobby Kennedy. He was very outspoken about it. Seed oils.
Yes.
For people who say, I don't know what a seed oil is, but I constantly hear about it, what is that?
So seed oils are your canola, rapeseed, sunflower, safflower, vegetable oils. And very often it's not, people think we're attacking the plant. I'm not attacking the sunflower. I'm attacking the distance from the plant to the table. So when you take a plant like a rapeseed, which is canola, and you put it in a commercial press and it comes out gummy, and you degum it with hexane, which is a known neurotoxin, and then you take that degummed oil and you heat it to 405 degrees. This turns it rancid. It putrefies it. And then we stick a heart-healthy label on it, and we say that these polyunsaturated fatty acids are part of a heart-healthy diet. That is complete nonsense. They're part of a heart-inflammatory diet. Inflammation is the root of all evil. Here are the 5 oils you need in your life. An olive oil, at room temperature. You can cook in coconut oil, grass-fed butter, ghee butter, or coconut oil. These are oils that don't denature at high temperatures. Use an olive oil or an avocado oil at room temperature, and get the rest of those seed oils permanently out of your life.
What would you say to an adult in the United States right now who says, I don't even know where to start? What are your top do's for somebody to lead a healthier life?
First of all, pay attention to your sleep. Sleep is our human superpower.
I won't tell you how much sleep I get on an average night, Gary, because you'll be horrified. Oh my gosh.
But I'll fix it for you.
Okay.
Consistency in bedtime and getting on a good circadian rhythm is probably the single biggest thing that you can do to improve the outcome of your day the next day. Do a contrast shower before you go to bed. Get in hot water, let it run in the back of your neck, step out of that stream of water, turn it cold, step into that cold stream of water. I know, guys, just deal with it for 30 seconds. Break the catecholamine cycle in the brain. Dry off, and when you climb into bed, make your room as cold and dark as you possibly can.
I do that.
Stay off your screens at night. If you have to be on your phone at night, turn the red light setting on your phone. Blue light raises your cortisol, which is a waking hormone, right? So at night, we're having light come into our eyes that says, hey, wake up, when we're actually trying to go to sleep.
And what about eating-wise? What would you say people, you should get this out of your diet or put this in your diet immediately today to see a difference?
Let's boil diets down to the absolute facts, right? Look at the blue zones. If you look at all the blue zones around the world, what was the continuity between all of those diets? They were all whole foods. No one was eating a highly processed diet and living a long lifetime. So the secret to living a long life is eating whole foods. Meat, fish, chicken, eggs, vegetables, coconut oil, olive oil, nuts, avocados, whole foods in their whole form. The highly processed diet is what sends our cellular biology into a tailspin.
So for people who maybe have a desk job, who are sedentary throughout the day, what would you tell them to do?
You don't have to have 90 minutes in the morning to move your day around. I know there's a lot of busy moms and dads and career professionals out there that get out of bed and they're on the move as soon as they get out of bed. 15-minute walk then, 15 minutes after lunch, 15 minutes after dinner. That little bit of mobility helps pull the glucose out of your bloodstream, improve your insulin sensitivity, and that alone is one of the leading causes of metabolic syndrome, and it's completely preventable with lifestyle changes.
Let me ask you about the word biohacker.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people have heard that word word. You call yourself a biohacker.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You know, it's trying to do more with less. It's like, what is the best thing I can do for my cellular biology? And there's so many digital gizmos out there that, you know, you can get paralysis of analysis. The best biohacking devices mimic what we get from Mother Nature.
So finally, you know, with the Maha movement, with AI kind of up and coming, I feel like we're in a space where people are saying, I don't know, if we're healthier and we have the ability to utilize AI in a specific way, could we see the longevity of humankind expand?
There's no question that artificial intelligence, big data, and early detection are the greatest three inventions in terms of the longevity of humanity. I believe if you're alive in 5 years, it will be your choice whether or not you want to live to 120, potentially 140 years old.
Wow. We have so much more to come with Gary Brecka as he shows us around his biohacking compound, complete with cold plunge and hyperbaric chambers. Stay with us.